when you're
okay. Well, thank you for your appreciate. I just specifically item 2.15, if that's what you're referencing. And the agenda item specifically about the resources that will be used to help with this. So building.
okay. So as far as the funding in the building of the school, you should definitely appropriate that money. And I think more so for the other things that are Brian grew off that campus, so yeah, it's okay. I think a lot of the staff that knew Ian are already gone. So I think you guys should maybe reevaluate, since that's one of those behavioral schools that helps with the environments. And my son was one of them. I don't think he had a really healthy environment at that school. If he was eat pants, milk, ended up on the vending machine and arrested twice. That's maybe we should more evaluate the money going towards maybe better counselors at that school. Because it used to be not in a really great neighborhood. I think you guys moved it. So yeah, I think the situation is with the funding and the infrastructure, more and more you need to evaluate the building. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Bayless. We're going to move on to individuals who have submitted yellow cards. Ms. Binder. I have you on item 2.09, 2.16, away. Have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. I want to be very brief with this, but I really don't understand in all my years of reviewing purchase awards. I've never seen one for 0, especially when it comes to doing work for the district. So I have a lot of concern about that third-party administrator award with no money tied to it, because I know companies like that don't work for free. So I'll get some info on the back about that. On 2.08, I think that oh, that was 8, right? Sorry. Oh no, licensed personnel. Data Insight Partners last night shared a thread on Twitter that once again showed a lot of real-time data for our teacher shortage, which in Paring and Q is showing our teacher shortages at over double the number that the district's been reporting out to the public. And I think that everyone deserves to understand why there's such a huge discrepancy in the openings on the human resources page versus what is constantly quoted as being our shortages. I think it's very important that everyone can wrap their minds around whether we are looking at 1,500 teachers or like close to 4,000, because that's huge. Especially yesterday when Senator Dina Neal brought up the concerns going on out at Pearson. And I really could not believe that our, people testifying had no knowledge. And then on 29 was the award, and then the approval of settlement, right? The $9 million. Where are we at? 1 minute. So I previously told you guys what happens when Clark County School District becomes uninsurable. And I think I can count 11 or 12 settlements to the multi-millions of dollars from cases that result from abuse to our special education students through employees of the district. This is our second $9 million settlement. I know you guys approved just an offer of judgment. No idea, if they're going to take that or not on your last one. But now here we go, 9 million again. And I've asked historically, and I'd have to pull all of your policies to see it, but what's your lifetime insurable rate with your companies? What risk does this put you at? And what happens when you have to become self-insured? And I hope those discussions are going on in the back end, because of the cases that I know that are getting ready to file potentially in the next year or two, the losses are higher than 9 million, especially for these parents who will take it to a jury trial.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. That is all we have for individuals who have signed up in advance or submitted yellow card for public comments on consent agenda items. Moving on to this time, colleagues, for discussion or motion, trustee Guzman.
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you, trustee Guzman. Trustee Brooks. Thank you, trustee Brooks. Colleagues, we have a motion by trustee Guzman and a second by trustee Brooks. Please cast your vote. Thank you, colleagues. That motion passes 7-0. Trustee Bustamante Adams. You ready to please read the warrants?
Thank you, Madam President. Ratified warrants as listed in the bills payable transmittal and board memorandum number 15-22-23, the total amount of $142,018,617.40.
Thank you, trustee Bustamante Adams. Colleagues, we are now going to move on to item 3.01, formative board reports and updates, focus 2024 strategic plan update, chronic absence. Ms. Yolanda, last was it? Flores. Thank you, Ms. Flores. Welcome. Please take it away.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Yolanda Flores, Assistant Superintendent, Education Services. With your permission, I would like to present to you a strategic plan update on chronic absence. The presentation aligns with our Focus 2024 goals, specifically in the area of student success and safety and engagement. This board presentation will mark the 7th time that we presented to the board on this topic, the last being August 25th of 2020. So ESD, under the guidance of College Career Equity and School Choice Unit, has focused its effort on identifying root causes for missed-school situations and also on using outside partners to assist with chronic absenteeism efforts. So the result of our theory of action would then be to see chronic absenteeism rate decrease. So looking at our strategies, they fall into 2 basic categories. One is developing and supporting teachers, principals, and staff, and we do that in 2 different ways. Implementing a district-wide multi-tiered system of support to promote student success in both academic and behavior. Also implementing and utilizing a comprehensive data dashboard to analyze student achievement data and early warning indicators relative to attendance, behavior, and course completion to guide data-driven decision making at the school level. In the second category, we expand opportunities and supports for all students. What that looks like is increasing partnerships to expand mental health wraparound services, social workers, school safety personnel, behavioral interventionists, and counselors. So looking over the last 5 years, you'll see that this current year is our chronic absenteeism rate is lower than it has been in previous years across all subgroups. We see a most dramatic increase by 6.9% with our Black African Americans. While we did not meet our overall target for 2022-2023, we have seen an overall improvement in chronic absence. The gap between our highest and lowest subgroups, Black, African American, and Asian respectively, also is above our target for this year. So comparable districts publish their chronic absenteeism data on an annual basis, so we don't have anything to share at this time, but we will at the end of this year. So this slide talks about some of the challenges, successes, and lessons learned. One of the challenges is a slower than expected rebound from some of the attendance figures that we've been dealing with in the past. Some of the successes for this year really center around the multi-agency support that continues to be strong with different entities like CPOP and the Harbor and different collaborations that we have. Also a restructure of the attendance department. We've added several attendance officers to that department, and we've also restructured how that department operates. Deployment of the attendance officers for mentorship, that's the most recent addition. We are using them to track students throughout a school year, and we intervene much earlier than we had in the past, and they get to see a student through. So that's our most recent addition to our attendance. We also have a differentiated support from region teams, superintendent student advisory committee, implementation and problem solving. I got to be a part of that, and students are engaged in that and giving us their opinions on what's going on with chronic absenteeism. So some of the lessons we've learned, the first being that chronic absenteeism really is impacting all indicators. So we see it affecting grades, we see it affecting the student as a whole. Recovery from increased rates will require ongoing comprehensive initiatives. So we're working hard to look at different facets of that. So here are our next steps. I mentioned before the hiring of additional attendance officers and system improvements, again with the mentorship with attendance officers, and just looking at different ways to use them efficiently and effectively in this area. We've also added professional learning for those attendance officers, so they are now equipped with technology. They have iPads and cell phones, so they're able to be with families present in the moment, relaying that data when they're making home visits. Student town halls are also ongoing. We've had 4 to date in both middle and high schools, and 2 of which were focused primarily on chronic absenteeism. And then again, with the administrative professional learning, we've got several professional learning events planned this school year and also throughout the summer. With that, I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. I see Trustee Guzman in the queue. Go ahead, Trustee Guzman.
Thank you, and thank you for this presentation. I have a lot of questions. I went to the student advisory committee, the superintendent student advisory committee yesterday, and they have a lot of information, but I kind of want to start in elementary school when we're talking about absenteeism, because we set up ourselves for routines in elementary school. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm totally okay with that, but we count kindergartners, yet we don't mandate kindergartners to come to school. Is that correct?
So, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, that's a great question, Trustee Guzman, and I will make it a priority to get that information to you.
Oh,
Mr. Manzi. We've got Mr. Manzi.
Come on down.
Welcome, Mr. Manzi.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Guzman. In response to your question about kindergarten students counting, so we do include the kindergarten students in the calculation for chronic absenteeism. It does not, they're enrolled in school, so those are students that are here with us that are participating in our activities. You're correct that the required age requirement is 7 to 18 in the NRS, but we do have also rules about 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds for entering kindergarten and grade 1.
May I ask a follow-up? So when we're doing that, when we have students, they're all excited, they're coming to school, but they are not mandated to be in school. Is that correct? Like the parents bring them, and let's say they want to go to Disneyland. They are not mandated to be in class, so parents can take them. Is that correct?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Guzman, based on the NRS, the required ages for enrollment are 7 through 18. We do have rules that allow us to enroll 5-year-olds, but it's not required for a parent to present their 5-year-old for it.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, when we're looking at star ratings for our schools, they look at this also. They look at our absentee rate. And so elementary schools, we're looking at kindergartners not showing up. Does that count against their star rating?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Guzman. So chronic absenteeism is a measure within the star rating. So it is one of the factors towards their points. So the higher the chronic absenteeism rate, the less points the school would receive as a result of that piece. We have other rules that do require us to withdraw students based on their consecutive days of absence. So we look at good student accounting as part of that process as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think that's it right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. And I also want to put in a plug that. It was a great pleasure with trustee Guzman to attend the superintendent's student advisory committee yesterday. I have just a couple of just very quick questions here. I'm so glad that the student town halls are still happening, at least at 4 today. And I've had some questions on that, and those are by principal request, and those are not open to the public. It's just student town hall. Is that correct?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada, Trustee Cavazos, it is by school site and it's only the principal and staff.
Okay. Principal and staff and students? Okay, thank you for that. And the only other quick question I had was on the slide they had about the attendance officer additional training. Is that training done? Is that in-person training that's done, or are those videos, or how is that structured?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada. So Trustee Cavazos, it's done primarily in person. We have had some video training as well, but it really is a hands-on training where we're actually going out with them in their vehicles and doing training at the door with parents as well. So it's in person primarily and also with parents.
Okay, it's more or less on the job training.
Yeah.
Okay. But they do have some preliminary training before that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. That was all I had.
Thank you, trustee Cavazos. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Flores, for your presentation. I'm excited about your leadership on the team. My questions have to do with the reasons why the chronic absenteeism. If you could just highlight maybe the top two. And then you mentioned the success of multi-agency support. So thank you for that. Is there anybody missing at the table? Is there a partner missing at the table that would help to provide additional support that's needed?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada, Trustee Bustamante Adams, I think we're doing a great job right now, specifically with T-POP and our work with them. We see large increases in those areas. To speak to your question about the biggest areas that we see causing chronic absenteeism at this time, they really are at the secondary level, and they're happening more with students who are also engaged in a variety of disciplinary actions as well. So we're trying to find that line and try to connect and re-engage students, but we're finding that there's a connection.
Thank you so much. Is that okay? Is that all for Superintendent Adams? Excellent, thank you. Trustee Zamora?
Thank you, President. Gracias, Ms. Flores. Like always, Linda sometimes gets to my, Trustee Cavazos gets to my questions before I do. But I do have a follow-up for the student town halls. What is the turnouts? How does the turnout look like?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada, Trustee Zamora, it has been a really good turnout. So principals are selecting a cross-section of students for each one, depending on what it is that we're researching at the time. So for example, a chronic absenteeism situation would require that some of those students be kids who aren't attending training. But we've had a great turnout so far, anywhere between 40 to 60 students, along with campus staff, campus monitors, administrators, teachers. So it's been a really good turnout for all of them so far.
I have a follow-up with that. How about parents? Are parents being involved?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada, Trustee Zamora, at this time they are not. It is strictly an on-site town hall, so we're not inviting anyone external. So it's just staff, students, and anyone just and administrators from my level as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Trustee Williams?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for this brief. I only have one question. I actually have been to the superintendent student committee meetings. It's really funny because they take a ball and it's like curl it in people's faces. So it's always a fun question. You said the other districts, they report on an annual basis. So I guess when do their numbers get published so that we can compare them to our numbers?
Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board, I will get that right. Superintendent Hada, Trustee Williams, they are usually reported in July or August of that year, so we will have them for the fall of this next year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, trustee Williams. Trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. So chronic absenteeism and behavioral challenges are a reflection of things that are happening in the community. Things that happen in the community that schools ultimately become responsible for. I know one of your slides mentions that you have some promising supports for multi-agency. Could you talk more about what that, is it just the K-pop? Are there other external agencies that you're leveraging to make this a community-owned?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hannah, Trustee Brooks. We're seeing a lot from T-POP, but we're also working closely with Boys Town and seeing a lot of the effects of their work in schools. I know that there will be a report on that later this school year. We also started a partnership with Workforce Connections and Big Harbor specifically. So we're seeing improvements as we gain these partners. So I see a gap in that. I'm not quite sure what that would be just yet. I think the community partners that we have are feeling those trust now.
And then regarding the work with those partnerships, are those partnerships across the board, or are you testing some partnerships out in some schools so that you can measure the effectiveness of those?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hannah, Trustee Brooks, we are not all community partners are in all. T-POP is available to all schools at this time, and we have a system for referred students to that, also to the harbor. But Boys Town is not in every single school. It's kind of by need right now, but we are growing our skip, and so there will be a bigger fund.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, trustee Brooks. My questions, first couple of slides, Ms. Flores. This question is directed at you, but it's also Dr. Jara. The first couple of slides focuses on the root cause with the theory of change is kind of identifying the root causes. I want to be able to hear a little bit more about what Dr. Jara is learning in weekend visits that he's making to school, some sort of students and families who have challenges with chronic absenteeism. Dr. Jara.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. So we've done 2 Saturday chronic, well, I won't say chronic absenteeism. We've done and identified students and families home visits from 7:30 to about 11. We sent 2 teams. So just kind of what we are learning is I think where you're getting a theory of action to identify what we call this. We are learning that obviously there's some social issues that our children and our families are experiencing. And it's in some cases keeping our kids home. For example, multiple challenges in homes where parent, grandma, auntie go to work and the kids stay home. That's one. We also are seeing there's multiple root cause issues where I would say for the respect of the families that we're visiting, there's a lot of financial hardship where you see that that the kids are refusing to go to school because of the lack of I would say multiple opportunities in clothing because of the lack of resources. So it's some hard challenges that our families are facing. The other one is once a kid misses a bus stop, then they can't get to school because mom or the siblings, the parents aren't there, but they can't get them to school, right? So and it's happening for the entire family in high school, and then if they have a middle schooler, it's the same thing. So if I when I'm hearing the questions around partnership, right? These are, and I was very clear in the state of the schools is that we said it to principals today, we can address 7 to 3, between 7 a.m. and 3 a.m. These are social impacts in the community after school that we need our municipalities to partner with us. We need and not just T-POP. I think T-POP's a great partnership with the county, and that was, if you recall, that was funded with the AB 309. when the county was able to raise the revenue to provide that support. I think the others need to step up to help us to address some of these issues, because they are some real hardships that our families are struggling, and also mental health issues at home that's keeping our kids and staying home from coming to school.
Thank you, Dr. Jara. That definitely our kids need our municipalities, and yes, we absolutely can support, especially with the emphasis recently from leaders of our state who talk about accountability, which absolutely, this board is committed to accountability, student achievement. We also need the support and help of our community leaders to help us address challenges that have to do with housing, affordable housing, food insecurity, just challenges our families have with mental health and finances, and even just reliable transportation that's not only dependent solely on the district. So, just thankful for those visits that you have made, Dr. Jarrett, and you and your team continue to have, but certainly implore our board to think about as we're developing goals for next year. What does it mean to continue to think about relationships with municipalities that will allow us to strengthen the work that's needed for our kids. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Flores. Appreciate your support. Are you sticking around for the next one? Okay. I see, I'm sorry, forgive me, before we move on to the next one, I see Trustee Cavazos is on the queue. Is this for this? Okay, very good. Thank you. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a really quick follow-up on a kind of a planned head here, which is more here. On the town halls where it's just staff and students and it's at the principal's request, are these kind of like arranged so that it's not just like where everybody gets a turn, to ask for that? And are there any plans to include parents in the near future?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hannah. Trustee Cavazos, if I may, if Dr. Stavella is here, can speak to this issue. He is our leader of these town halls, and I'm just still getting my feet wet in terms of how to do this, so.
Appreciate
Dr.
that.
Stavella.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam President, member of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Cavazos, absolutely, we do plan on inviting parents and community and members of the MDK in order to really just engage in this process, so they can see how restorative processes really help students to get into a space of empathy so they can speak their truth, and we can really get to a point where we can identify school issues and collaborate on how do we address and resolve the school issues. So the process is done in a restorative format. So students are able to speak whenever they feel the need to, and some of the questions permit students to pass if they really are not in a space where they are comfortable to speak. So we definitely want to invite community. We want to invite members of the school community, the extended community in the future, so that, and also school police. It's really important to have them engage in the conversations. And we've done it in the past.
Thank you so much, because, we always see it, kind of as kind of like the different entities here, and it looks like you guys are doing a fine job of including as far as the students and staff, and we want to make sure that we do not forget the parents in this equation. And thank you so much for this presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Colleagues, this is not an action item, but we are moving on to item 3.02, strategic focus 2024 strategic plan update, student discipline. Ms. Flores, take it away.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hannah, for the record, Yolanda Flores, the superintendent and this division. I have another strategic plan update for you today. This one also falls under the student success category, specifically under safety and needs. This presentation will mark the 6th time that Education Services Division has presented to you, the most recent time being on September 8th of 2022. So our theory of action in relation to student discipline is identifying root causes once again and systematizing appropriate restorative practices. Students experience equitable application of disciplinary consequences, feel safe and contribute to a positive school life. Our goal is to perform. So this falls into 2 different categories. Once again, developing and supporting teachers, principals, and staff. And how we do that is through an implementation and utilizing a comprehensive data dashboard to analyze student achievement data and early warning indicators relative to attendance, behavior, and course completion to guide data-driven decision-making at the school level. We also expand opportunities and supports for all students. We've increased partnerships to expand mental health and wraparound services. Social workers, school safety personnel, behavioral interventionists, and counselors in schools. We utilize Clark County School Justice Partnership and restorative justice practices to ensure students are held accountable for their behavior in order to learn from their mistakes, take responsibility for their actions, and reconnect with school students by providing them with continuity support from educators who interact with them on a daily basis. And finally, we explore educational options for students who choose to commit violence. So looking at our data over the last 5 years in regards to student suspension, we do see an overall rise in suspensions for first semester. Our trend is currently we have 14,989 close to us. The 2018-19 was 12,651. So we see approximately a 3,107 more suspensions first semester than we have in the last 5. Looking specifically at where these suspensions lie, overall the district is at 14,989 number I just mentioned. Elementary school has gone down significantly, but middle and high schools where we're really changing and overall. So speaking to the disproportionality in these suspensions, the yellow shaded boxes indicate that we're below the target for the current school year. However, we are on track if we continue on this trajectory to surpass the target. So we continue on this path. In addition, our Black African American student group has already exceeded our annual target by 6 points. In regard to discretionary expulsions, we also see a rise in discretionary expulsions for the current school year. We currently sit at 745. The closest year to us was 1819 with 730 that year. So looking again at where those expulsions are, we are over target for first semester in both middle and high school, superseding our target. So this shows us exactly what groups, looking at specific student groups, the red indicates that we are above target in those student groups. The only target that we're currently below is American Indian, Alaska Native. In terms of comparable districts, we do not have district data for comparable districts because all districts really track expulsions in a different way. So there's not a clean way to look at other districts. Look at their data and compare those. So speaking for specifically to challenges, successes, and lessons learned over the beginning of the school year, some of our challenges with disproportionality are inconsistencies in application of resolution, lacking a tightly aligned progress monitoring system, and also, again, that equitable application of resolution. Some of the successes we've seen are we continue external stakeholder collaboration, as you heard with our running absenteeism. And we also have re-engagement practices that are continuing that we implemented back in April. Some of the lessons learned, there are region-specific needs, structured support system for schools, differentiated support and accountability based on school data and context. So we're really taking a look at school by school. What is the culture of that school? Who are they? How do we help students within that region or that system? So that leads us to a revised theory of actions with our hope is that the student discipline figures are less disproportionate and decrease overall. That is our goal in terms of our equitable application. So looking at next steps, we are currently using different monitoring tools for principal supervision. That started back in November. We're also updating messaging to the community and schools, again with student town halls and listening to what students have to tell us about their experiences in the school setting and what they need. And then the final thing really is based on professional learning for administrators. I came from one of those today, right before this. That was our first one for the school year. And we're dedicated to making sure that all new administrators get the training that they need to arrive, but also just getting everyone an overall view of what that is, how to make it very nice.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. I see a couple colleagues on the queue. Let's start with Trustee Williams, who's first.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you guys for this report. And Mr. Manzi, I saw you trying to escape. Not allowed. Kidding. Ms. Flores, I wanted to ask a question. I actually have two questions. When you said one of your challenges is the equitable application of certain offenses, can you expand on that?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hada, we're really looking at streamlining larger indicators, or how do I explain? I'll give you an example of one specific campus disruption, for example. It can mean a variety of things, and there are a variety of different levels for minor to major that it entails. So one of those is one way. If we are to clearly delineate what it looks like, then we can really delineate the outcomes for it. Across schools, that might look very, very different. And I think now that we've just implemented region by region, we're giving data to the school area superintendents and also to the regions so they can talk to principals, and they're starting that conversation about what does it look like at this campus. I think often we get caught up in our own campus and don't really realize what's going on next door. Sure. And so a lot more of that conversation is happening, and that's helping with that equitable application.
Right. Okay. Well, their blinders are on, right? They're principals of their school and they're focused on their school. It's understandable. It makes sense. But my second question is with your student town halls, and you're doing listening sessions with students on how they feel and what they see and what they're perceiving actions and repercussions. But are you educating them and the parents on what the offenses look like and what your courses of action and the consequences are for certain actions, and how to, disperse, like campus disruption was a great example because a fight breaks out in a school and what does everybody do? They grab their phone and they all flock to it. So are you educating the students and their parents on what that's supposed to look like truly?
Madam President, members of the board, Trustee Williams, in the actual town halls, the focus is on whatever topic goes to the day running up on a specific discipline issue on that campus. So a lot of that doesn't take place within that restorative circle that we're having. Most of that happens on a campus level, depending on what the area of the is. So not happening specifically in the town halls, but it's happening on site.
Yeah, I only ask because I've met some of these students, and while they're super bright and they are freedom fighters and they are the next generation of change makers, sometimes their perception is off because they don't have the full picture of what we see. So that was the only reason why I had that question, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Williams. Trustee Guzman. Thank you. And thank you for this report. I have to do my fiduciary duty and talk about restorative justice, because I do that in my day job. But we allocated about $3 million to restorative practices. And I want to know where we are with that rollout.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustees Guzman, we are in year 2 of the implementation of restorative district-wide restorative practices. It's a 3-year implementation in which the first year we provided the resources and the materials. Second year we provide school teams training in partnership with the International Institute for Restorative Practices. And we train up 3 to 5 member teams that we refer to as restorative leadership teams. We give them a 2-month implementation period for them to really practice those experience and get the experiences and the expertise of utilizing the restorative processes on the continuum. And once that occurs, one of the restorative leadership team members, which we coined as a culturally inclusive champion, will go back for additional training and receive 20 hours of additional training above the 13-hour initial 2-day training, resulting in about 33 hours of training on the collegiate level for restorative practices to become a restorative practice trainer. Right now, we have 80% of our schools have 1 to 5 people trained on each campus, and we have 201 restorative practices trainers right now who are part of the normal allocated staff. In total, we've trained over 1,300 employees right now. Their jobs as a restorative leadership team is to go back and train the members of their staff, and accordingly, next year, the full implementation phase in the last year of the grant. And we actually are a little ahead of the schedule for those 201 schools. And we met with them today, those culturally inclusive champions who are restorative practices trainers. And then now they're going back to meet with their principals, their leadership teams, and they're going to plan incremental training at each.
And so we should be able to see as trustees the data from that by the end of next academic year. Is that what I'm hearing? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yes, you will see changes, and we should see changes in school culture and in school climate data as these restorative practices become part of the normal process of our school community and our school cultures. And we're really excited about what's going on right now in terms of the restorative practices trainings and the feedback that we're getting from our educators who are attending these trainings. So today was a great day. They're very excited to get back to their schools. We provided more resources. Next year, we're going to be providing them with more intensive coaching on a tiered level based on need and based on performance of the sort of leadership teams and how to implement these practices on their campuses. So yes, we should be seeing an impact more so than we've seen thus far moving into next year.
So just to clarify, would you say that it costs money to implement restorative practices appropriately throughout a district?
The training does cost money, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. It does cost money to provide the training for the schools and the educators in the schools to be able to implement this process correctly. So yes, it does take money to implement. However, the sustainability beyond the grant is where I think this is our probably one of our strongest points, because all of the educators who have been trained are regularly allocated staff members at each one of these schools. So they're the normal allocated staff, so that they are trained in every school. We have a restorative practices trainer and a 3 to 5 member RLT who is also trained in the fundamental practices of restorative practices.
So we'll be able to, so that educators will be able to implement it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all of that. I see Dr. Dara would like to jump in. Dr. Dara?
I do, Madam President, members of the board. I think Dr. Scabella was being humble and kind, and I would say modest. I think the training is great, and what I'm hearing is going on, and I think he's trying to be polite of the money, but it does, and I think I know where you were headed. This is an ongoing, I would say, an expense, but not only cost, because I know that we train our staff, but the new staff continues to come in, and that has to be ongoing, refreshing, time. And I think giving them time, we have curriculum, right? And I think if we're going to move where I think we're going, and I know there's great work happening to move the needle in the time for our educators. Remember, we have math curriculum, science curriculum, we are ELA finally adopted by the state. So that's coming, and now this, right? So to expand it, it's going to require some significant effort, which costs money. I think where you at. So absolutely.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jara. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. As usual, Trustee Guzman makes me think of other questions I didn't have before. So just to clarify, Dr. Scavella, when you say that we are in year 2, we're doing the training, and I really love the idea of the trainers coming back to train, so that we do have the personnel that are already in our schools that have the necessary knowledge to be able to carry this out. So when we say that we're in year 2, are we counting like before COVID, when we had started to roll some of this out, and of course a lot of things were interrupted at that time? Is that kind of baked into the timeline?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Cavazos. Year 1 was last year. The legislation passed AB 371 in July 2021. Later that year in November, we applied for the grant. We were awarded the grant in January of 2022. That second semester actually began the clock of year 1, which was second semester of last year, in which we conducted a pilot for 18 schools and provided the materials and the resources in order to do a full district-wide rollout in terms of professional learning. And that was year 1. So year 1 was actually, when you look at the calendar year.
Thank you, Dr. Scavella, and thank you for clarifying those dates, and that was for the purpose of questions that I was being asked today. Obviously, restorative justice practices is a very hot potato right now, and when it gets to legislative hearings, which I did not get to watch today, but I wanted to clarify that this was not having to do with originally with AB 168, which was rolled out before, obviously, this grant. So thank you for clarifying that. A couple of other really quick things. Trustee Williams took care of one of my questions right there. When you were talking about that one of the challenges was the, I think I was worded as far as not having like a really tightly aligned, what is that, monitoring system? Is that how it stated? Something like that. I wrote my notes very quickly. Can you say a little bit more about that? What that challenge is? What does it look like that we do not have I guess, a really good monitoring system? I can't remember what slide it was on. I'm sorry.
I see Dr. Larson Mitchell wants to jump in. Go ahead.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Cavazos. The teaching and learning unit team, we have developed over the course of this year a monitoring system protocol that principal supervisors use with principals. It's about an every 6 to 8 weeks cycle. So we talk with them about timely data such as MAP growth data, SBAC data. So we look at the data, and during those conversations, those progress monitoring conversations, we always embed student behavior data. And so when we see schools that have high numbers of 5 or 10 more days of suspensions or discretionary expulsions, we provide differentiated support. And again, it's support. Looking at MTSS, Tier 1 includes our social emotional, our behavioral, and our academics. So what are those Tier 1 systems that they have in place for behavior? And then what are the Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions that they have in place to help our students that are exhibiting some behavioral challenges? So we differentiate our support working with our principals based on the data.
Thank you so much. I see that there's other trustees in the queue, so may have another follow-up question, but thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Larson Mitchell, for that. I appreciate it. So good for now. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Cavazos, trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to staff. I think restorative justice just gets a bad rap. I actually think it's grounded in research. It's the right thing to do for kids. The reality is legislation was passed. A really tragic and unfortunate incident happened with an educator. And my question for you is, do you think there was an overcorrection in the system that's put staff in a place where they were more likely to expel or punish kids based on fear?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Humphrey. I think as building principals, it's a big duty and they struggle with a lot of what's going on their campus. The safety of their students is paramount. So I think there may have been, in an effort to keep their campuses safe, there might have been an overcorrection in seeing a lot of discretionary expulsions that I think we may not have otherwise. But that pendulum is definitely swung that way, and we're hopeful again.
Thank you. I definitely think that it's very hard to find a balance between keeping kids safe and making sure the needs of some students are addressed so that they can fully engage in the educational settings. I don't envy the building leaders in this regard. It's very tough, and I think it's behooves us as leaders, community leaders, as community members to reflect on that and find balance. I appreciate your work in this.
Dr. Dura.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, trustee Brooks, I think where we are now, and we look at it, part of the conversations that our regional supervisors are having individually with principals is to really look at it, address it. And I would tell you, as all of us who were at the council of direction schools and the conversations, things that are spilling onto our community, from community to our school grounds, right? A lot of issues. What we need to look at is the revision of our theory of action and bring other partners into this work. Our school principals, our leaders, all of us, we are doing the best we can, and I think we're going to continue to analyze and be specific and intentional. But there's other resources that need to be pulled in to help us. Throwing them out into the streets is not the answer. Keeping them in classrooms where they're not safe and others are not safe is not the answer. So it's, what are the other outside entities that this is very similar to the chronic absenteeism discussion. The community needs to be real partners to help us address the issues, because with 300,000 children, we're not just the Clark County School District's responsibility, it's the overall. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durham. I'm going to add one piece here that I have a very high level of concern for our Black students who are disproportionately suspended in our school district. I appreciate the consideration on all fronts. I know that we are here from the presentation and from the work that Dr. Dara and his team do, that we are trying to address on all fronts. I just implore us to continue to, as we think about our goals as for a school district, as board of trustees, as we give the superintendent direction for next academic year, to consider what we can do to best support from our lens and our role, the work of closing the gap for students who are disproportionately over disciplined. I know the work is ongoing. You're not going to wait until next year to get the addressing position, but I just want to point out that as a board, we can create goals that are aligned with superintendent goals to help us address some of these issues. And academics, discipline is not the only issue that our students are Black African American students are experiencing, and with respect to academics as well, it is a thing that we must continue to explore and not sit still. It keeps me up at night for sure. Thank you. All right, Ms. Flores, I believe that takes you off the hot seat. Thank you so much. Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Scavella, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to move on to item 4.01. Naming of district facilities. This is an action item, colleagues, and members of the audience. If you have not had a chance to complete a public speaker card, it's a yellow card. If you'd like to speak on this item, please submit that now. Before we continue. More yellow cards. Nope. This is perfect. We're gonna go all right, so we will hear the presentation first and then obtain public comments. Doesn't appear that there is any of this. Yes, there is actually one. Mr. Story, come on down. Thank you.
Hi, President. Garcia Morales, Trustees, Superintendent for Top Story, Chief Communications Officer of the COERCION School District. For the record, what you have is two items before you. One is the naming of the CTA in the northern part of the valley. The second item is a facility with regard to a transportation facility after a former employee. I think the packet includes the materials for your consideration. And staff made the recommendation that the facility in the north should be called the Northeast Career and Technical Academy, based on its geographic location, as you can see reflected on the map included in the packet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Colleagues, before we open up discussion, are you comfortable with public comment? Oh, yes. All right. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I am the chairperson on this committee. And I just want you to know that that the committee voted to make it the Northeast Career Technical Academy unanimously to bring it forward to the board.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Thank you, Mr. Story. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Trustee Brooks, I hear you have something to share with Ms. Crone.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to note that on the agenda currently, the motion for item 4.01 and 4.2 is already noted. So are we able to clear that off of board docs? Yeah, I just wanted to point that technical before we Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that, Trustee Brooks, for that correction that will be made. Thank you, Ms. Crone. Ms. Williams, did you say that are you comfortable with public comment first? Is that okay? Thank you very much. All right, first person and only person in public comment today, Ms. Rebecca Gibson. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam President Garcia Morales, the members of the school board, Superintendent Jara. My name is Rebecca Gibson, Assistant City Manager with the City of North Las Vegas. And for the record, I am here to speak on item 4.01. I spoke on behalf of the city at the school naming committee held on March 7 in opposition of the proposed name of the Northeast Career and Technical Academy. I stand before you today requesting that the board consider the name of North Career and Technical Academy. Its geographical location within the valley would suggest that North Career and Technical Academy would be the most appropriate name for the school as it aligns due north. Should you consider an additional CTA in the future in the true northeast portion of the valley, you will be limiting naming options available to you by designating this CTA in North Las Vegas as Northeast CTA. Although your school naming applications are no longer available online, we would be happy to submit a new naming application for your consideration and follow the policy outlined in Regulation 7223. Should the board reconsider the name being brought forth to you for
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gibson, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I am gonna entertain some discussion. Trustee Williams?
Thank you. I was gonna actually just kind of to approve item 4.01. You guys can still discuss, but my motion stands.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
See, some members of the queue, do we have any discussion or we have discussion, okay. Yeah, let's see if there is a second for this one. Okay, let's do this one.
Thank you. I'll second. And then I just would like to speak to the committee that brought this forward. We had a discussion about the placement of the Northeast Career Technical Academy and why it would not be north. And that is because there could be and probably will be another high school up there that could be named north, and it would be due north. We have a Southeast Career Technical Academy. This would be our Northeast Career Technical Academy. And so the naming committee felt that it would be better if we waited and we'd be able to have a north high school.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Cavazos, do you have some to share? Okay, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I was waiting to hear from, because I was not able to watch the naming committee. And I did have some questions about that after I looked at the map and saw that. I had several constituents say, so is that going to be over by Trustee Zamora's and your districts? And I said, not exactly, if you look at the map, because we have a lot of the Northeast, including our districts that are very close and abut. And so they did have some questions about that as far as why it was being called Northeast. So I was appreciating Trustee Guzman explaining. I'm not sure that I totally agree with that, but I do appreciate the rationale that was presented to the committee.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Trustee Brooks?
Thank you, Madam President. So I did not watch the meeting. I do understand the points being made by the city of North Las Vegas, and I was wondering if staff could speak on the probability of there being a future CTA utilizing these two sites that are on, most of the CTAs are pretty spread out. So I just want to know how likely that is going to be dedicated to CTA.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Trustee Dr. Dara?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record. So we do have space, when I say space, property and land that is north, right, and it's about, because I was looking at the acreage, so just to think about and orient ourselves, one of the recommendations from the Council of the Great City School, when we did our operations, the recommendation was to start going higher in our land. So this CTA is in around 21 acres. So we do have acreage, the South CTA that they're building, which is a potential 2 sites right now that we're looking at, is 21 acres. There is some acreage that's north, which is about 3 to 4 miles from this current space. In saying that, it's potential when I talk to staff, it was potential CTA, but then we need to look at the district as our properties, we put another CTA like 3 miles near another CTA. So it's slated for potentially, but when look at as we are providing and being more competitive with choice options, as a community and as a district, do we then start building some of the choice high schools similar to the Robinson, thank you, Deputy Superintendent, Robinson, which is we're building some smaller high schools to get some more options. So it's currently slated for that, but it gives me pause when you're saying 3 to 4 miles, you know, in proximity. What we could do with. So that would be up to the board, because this board, if you recall, we're the ones that approved revision 5. And we can always come back and look at what the next revision for our CIPS.
Thank you, Dr.
That
John.
muddies the water, or explain what you.
It does. I want to be a good community partner. I also understand tradition. I understand how we come about naming different CTAs. If we're not going to do the one that is directly next, like this little red dot over here in between Northwest and the future CTA zone, and if you were inching in the middle, then you could just add like central to it, because you're inching towards the central area. I understand both sides of this argument. And I'm sure that you guys had a very thorough discussion, so I'd love to have the president weigh in, because it's not my region, and I would love to hear submitting.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. In learning more about the CTA location, current properties land that we own, and the current place of our CTA, I am in favor of this school being North CTA. This is proximity to land, proximity to the potential that we will have another CTA 3 miles away is very unlikely. All of our CTAs are currently spread out, and there is no such thing of two CTAs being in close proximity to each other. So we would benefit tremendously from having this be a North CTA, just the way that we have an East and a West CTA. Trustee Zamora, you're in the queue.
As I look at the maps and see all the new builds happening on the northeast, I definitely think about the future and what can happen on that side as well. And I definitely agree with you, President Garcia Morales, of just geographically, it's really in that territory. That's it, my comment.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Trustee Cavazos. Oh, thank you. I'm going to take. Oh no, Trustee Guzman, can you add yourself to the queue? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I'm going to ask Mr. Story to explain the if we were to change the names, what that would do to the opening of the school and the branding, please.
Sure, thank you. President Garcia Morales, Trustee Superintendent Zara. We had the same conversation at the school naming committee because that was a concern that could potentially delay the opening of the school. Based on the branding that has already been purchased. I don't know the dollar amount, but it means branding that has been purchased based on the staff recommendation presumption that the facility was going to be called North Superior Technical Academy.
Is that no, Trustee Guzman? Okay. Dr. Dara? Thank you, Dr. Dara.
I'm looking for the right. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, for the record, Mr. Campbell just saying, I know that from the school perspective, the fact that school was probably wearing. So I would think that in some of that will be school costs. When you look at facilities, Mr. Campbell said facilities, if they wouldn't make any change to the flyer. Sees Northwest Vegas thing. Eight partners have helped us purchase some branding for our school. So
I don't know that we've invited for additional public comment, but just a nod would be appropriate for some lanyards and other swag that the school has already purchased. Dr. Garth, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Okay, I want to point out we have a current motion on the floor. Trustee Williams.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to make a comment that this school is located in my area, it is in my district. is in District B. And since I've been elected, in 2020, I've been to the city meetings for this entire site. I've watched the build plans, I've seen the ground being broken, and it's disheartening, and I'm having trouble reconciling this concept that, and no disrespect to our partners in North Las Vegas, because I live in North Las Vegas, so I do understand. I actually don't live very far from this school. So it's disheartening to see that, like, now that we're at this point of finality, that this is when the problem has arisen in the name, when we've had 3 years for them to make a concept and a claim for this location. It's not like the location has just popped up out of nowhere and they just decided to put it here. This was months and months and months of planning, followed by months and months and months of surveying, followed by months and months and months of material gathering, followed by months and months and months of city community meetings. I know because I was there. And at one time, did I see a North Las Vegas city personnel planner or secretary or anybody come to one of those community meetings? So again, I made the motion because it is in my location. I agree with Trustee Guzman and their concept of why it should be called Northeast. I would actually hate to delay the opening of this school because there are so many kids in North Las Vegas that can benefit from this facility. So that is my only comment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Trustee Williams. Dr. Jara, can you help us clarify if changing of what would be delayed specifically in this name is changed to North CTA?
Sure, President Garcia. Trustees, Superintendent Jara, Todd Story for the record. I don't have the punch list of everything that has been purchased in front of me. I was told that based on the way the CTAs have been named in the past, that the principal was given the go-ahead to start ordering items that had to be branded in order for the school to open on time.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Appreciate that. Colleagues, we have an active motion on the table, and I think I don't see anybody else in the queue. So at this time, I'd like to request the vote. So it looks like this is the time for us to vote. Thank you, colleagues. Please cast your vote. Okay, colleagues, that motion passes 4-3. Moving on to item 4.02. 4.02. Mr. Story?
Yes, President Garcia Morales, Trustees, Superintendent Jara. So 4.02 is to name the Clark County School District Transportation Facility after a former employee, Paul Sawicki. Mr. Sawicki, according to the fact that he were able to review the materials, was a long-time district employee who gave his life on the job, but also off the job, to ensuring that our students were going to be transported safely and efficiently during his decades of service. The school naming committee did recommend that we name this facility after him. We were able to hear from members of his family, and this was brought forward by Jennifer Bogus, our Director of Transportation, and the support of the staff involved in transportation, who were able to work with Mr. Sawicki throughout the years, and we spoke quite highly of him. So we recommended, staff recommended the facility be named after him.
Thank you, Mr. Story. I jumped right into 4.02, and I did not ask for yellow public speaker cards. This, if anybody would like to speak on this item, this is the moment to do that. Is there anyone who has not submitted a yellow public speaker card? Could you please come on up and then please make sure that you submit your yellow card, complete a yellow card. Thank you. Can you please state your name for the record? Thank you very much. Say that again for me one more time.
Ray Carabeo.
Welcome, Ray.
Thank you. I'm Jordan. Please, thank you very much. They're just here to represent our project. my sister and I, and my brother, and we just want to speak on behalf of him. He dedicated his career to Clark County Schools Transportation Department, and his unwavering commitment and dedication to the work that has been shown exceptional, and it is an honor to share his story with the board today. Our father has been a part of the school district transportation department for more than 3 decades, and during this time, he played an instrumental role in ensuring that the safe and timely transportation of thousands of Clark County students, and worked tirelessly to ensure that every student who stepped onto a Clark County school bus arrived at their destination safely and without incident. Working in the transportation requires an unwavering commitment to safety, and our father embraced the commitment throughout his career. He always put the students' safety first and the Clark County School District employees first, ensuring that each bus or vehicle was in top condition. In the garage, he led by example, and his employees respected and admired him for it. He was a man of integrity, honesty, and humility, and he never asked his employees to do something he would not do himself. He worked side by side with them, and he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, and he respected the bus drivers and thoroughly enjoyed working with them. He was a leader and a mentor, and we were just so happy to have him as our father, and thank you.
Thank you so much for your public comment. Please help me get a yellow card. That's up on the podium and leave up front. I really appreciate it. All right, Mr. Story, was that all? Excellent, thank you. Dr. Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. Wanted to thank, I believe it was Ray, what's your name? For being here tonight to speak on behalf. I wanted to make a motion. So without my glasses, I'll just sort of read this and you guys tell me if I make a mistake here. It would be my honor to recommend and to accept the recommendation to name the maintenance building at the Mashpee Wells Transportation Center as the Paul Swicky Vehicle Maintenance Building at this time.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Do I have a second? Trustee Guzman?
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I would like to second, and I would also like to say that our committee was extremely, they were so happy to actually vote for this transportation facility and to name it after their father. It just, it was very touching.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. So colleagues, we have a motion by Trustee Cavazos, a second by Trustee Guzman. Please cast your votes. Thank you, colleagues. That motion passes 7-0. At this time, thank you, Mr. Story. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
And your family. Colleagues, we're going to move on to item 5.01. Public comment not listed on items. Public comment on items not listed as action items on the agenda. We're going to begin. Forgive me, before we continue on this item, if anybody has not completed a yellow public speaker card, please do so now. We will begin with the individuals who called in advance. Mr. Bayless. Followed by Michael Fara and Dan Thomas.
Hi, James Bayless for the record. Madam Trustees. So I wanted to address the packet that you guys got pertaining to my topic. If you looked at a report from what's it called? For DNA test for my son from Florida, having a problem with his mom, so I ended up having to get him. They had to send me to North Carolina. You know what's in North Carolina? Cherokee National Consulate. So just to let you guys know, did you guys recognize this place as Paiute? You might want to look right beside my name, because everything that's been transpired from you guys sending child services to my house, sending the cops to my house with no paperwork. If I'm American Indian, that's a violation of a lot of federal laws. The fact that you're able to take my kid out of the house with no warning, oh, that's a giant federal law. So if you guys recognize this place as Indian territory, how about respecting the Indian that's standing on the territory? That would be great. Considering, again, last night's meeting was uberly hilarious. I actually got it. I've never laughed so hard in my life. So the fact is if you read that paperwork and you understand my situation as being a Cherokee Indian and I'm being openly disrespected on my own land. That's kind of jacked up. My son, he's a Pacific Islander, which ironically to your guys' truancy thing is kind of ironic because he fits under the Asian area and the Pacific Islander area. So it might not be a low income family problem. It may be your school withdrawing children without permission problem. That's what basic is. That's what we've been going around and around about. So the situation with child services, they enlightened me that they won't be bothering me no more, despite how much Miss Deanna calls them. They won't be coming to my door ever again. So the situation at hand is, if every person that you've ever sent to my house to try to get me in trouble has ended up backfiring, maybe you guys should actually start stepping up and taking care of your responsibility. Because the factor is your school system says January 10th isn't their responsibility. Henderson says because of the door-to-door, it's your guys' responsibility. And that paperwork states it's your responsibility. So since there's a police report in your precinct for Gerald Bustamante, I would suggest somebody handle their responsibility. Because I'm sure last night a certain person was referred to as a high incidence profile case they might be hearing. I want to Google search my name. So mess around and find out real quick. Good one.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Michael? Father?
I found out this is being advertised on TV. That doesn't make me do any less service. Madam President Garcia Morales, Board of Trustee Chair and Superintendent Jesus F. Ara. I'm saying that right. I read a Las Vegas Review Journal article about Clark County School District Board of Trustee President Garcia Morales. Then my mind self-talk segued to a maestro, author, and poet, and very dear friend Terry Pritz's book, which reads, "Your life is your garden, and your thoughts are your seeds. So if your life isn't awesome, you've been watering the weeds. Stop watering the weeds." It's Terry Smith. That's a partner who wants to come and make himself available to you, Garcia, and the Clark County School District. He's a renowned author. Thank you for letting me attend this board hearing and listen to the leaders mention teacher shortage, resources, and partnership. What led to my public comment? First, I'm performing my civic duty. Second, I'm honoring my National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics Preamble, paragraph 4. Third, one of Liaison Business Support Services customer, one of Clark County School District substitute teachers, and my own language arts and mathematics pursuits have manifested what I believe will generate more planned, organized, and rational substitute teachers, then Masters of Education, then resources, a Title I school mathematics scholarship, which one of your substitute teachers have motivated, PhD mathematician, Carnegie Mellon professor, Bo Shen Lo, founder of XP, a phenomenal mathematics video game curriculum. I found UNLV AARL program that accelerate a substitute teacher obtaining their Masters of Education and pays for 70% of those costs. I did this with one of your substitute teachers who is Liaison Business Support Services customer, who she's paying to help her become the best Master of Education. Why mathematics? I got this awesome email I'd like to send to you that defuses any racism allegation which this substitute teacher dealt with in a very eloquent way. And it was manifested by this PhD professor whom wants to come to the Clark County School District and offer a Title I mathematics scholarship. And the substitute teacher is getting an email to present to you. I can close with, that's
Thank
it.
you, Mr.
That's all I
Smith.
have to say.
I appreciate. Thank you so much, Mr. Fava, for your public comment. Mr. Thomas? And provide them to Ms. Lisa.
Is it ready for me to start now? Okay. First of all, thank you very much. I want to, I usually don't come out. I've never done anything like this in my life. And this is my third time. So this is 9 minutes of my life for 10 years of involvement with the school district. I'd like to publicly request a meeting with Dr. Jara because I can't seem to get a meeting with anybody else. It's been pretty darn frustrating. Things I'm trying to share with people right now, I didn't even let people come here because I don't like people to know what I have to say. But if I asked to donate some money to the school district, I'd probably get a meeting, okay? People don't know. I've donated over $1 billion to the school district. People don't know that, okay? Between Portland Public Schools and this place, I donated over $1 million. I've never told anybody, okay? I have 140 parents and 50 players that want to be here and I wouldn't let them come here, okay? Because I told them that I tried to go through the proper chain of commands, okay? I donated so much things. I was writing some of the things down that you guys were talking about. SOS Radio, you've heard of that, donated $35,000 to them last year. Canyon Christian Church, $40,000 to them this year. I tried to help Project 150. I donated a brand new farm and raised $80,000 because I'm an auctioneer. I do a lot of things to help people raise money. People don't have a clue what I do. I've been out of this job for 7 weeks. I literally am physically and mentally destroyed. Okay, my wife and I are having issues because of the fact that I won't let this go away. Because I'm 65 years old, and some of the stuff you guys talked about suspensions, all that kind of stuff, I've dealt with my entire life managing thousands of employees, owning 5 companies of my own, okay? It's affected a lot of things. I ended up in the hospital a week ago with heart palpitation because I had an anxiety attack, something I've never had happen in my life. Principal leaders that I heard a minute ago, principal leaders. I have 2 principals that got me out of this job. It's a code of conduct. One of the fathers of Shadow Ridge, he's a Shadow Ridge employee. He took the rest of the year off because why? Because he was the one trying to get me fired for bullying. His son went to 3 different schools now. He just transferred to another school, the same player that got me supposedly let go. So I don't quite understand why I can't have a meeting to clarify this kind of stuff. Humble and kind that Mr. Dara talked about. I listen to that song every single morning. Humble and kind. I teach the kids the same thing. So these are the kind of things. I have people contacting me all the time trying to say, can I help? Can I help? Can I help? And I say no, because it's my job to solve my own problem. But if I can't have a meeting with someone from the Clark County School District, I've been here 10 years, that's pretty darn sad that I can't have a meeting with the principal and let me go. It's just been so depressing to me. And just at the end of the day, I know I'm almost out of time here. I got fired for the word video. The word video, people use the word video. The school district uses the word video everywhere. No one saw the video that I got fired for, and the principal wouldn't even meet with me. It's because it was her best friend's son who got suspended numerous times. I was reading all that stuff you guys posted up there, and it's all the same stuff they're doing. And I can't have a meeting with somebody to resolve my problem. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Rochelle Westcott, followed by Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca, I'm sorry, you've already been on. Thank you. Rochelle Westcott, Anna Binder, Brandon Summers, and Ed Gonzalez. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. My name is Rochelle Westcott, and I'm here to challenge the firing of Shadow Ridge's head baseball coach, Daniel Thomas. It is my belief that the coach was wrongfully terminated, and I feel it is my duty to voice this concern. Coach Thomas has been an outstanding coach and mentor to the players of Shadow Ridge baseball team. My son Paul is a junior at Shadow Ridge and has been in his baseball program since his freshman year. Last summer, Paul suffered a torn UCL while pitching in a club ball tournament. When the MRI confirmed the diagnosis, my son was devastated. He's played baseball for over half his life, and the threat of losing his baseball career was hard for him to face. Elbow surgery was the only way he could ever play again. Unfortunately, the surgery requires at least 12 months of recovery, which would force him to miss his entire junior season. Dealing with uncertainty, my son was unsure whether he'd go through with the procedure. Coach Thomas expressed genuine concern for Paul. He was there to lift his spirits when all hope seemed lost. It was Coach Thomas that sent him a long text that talked about a similar experience he had during his high school days. Long story short, Coach also suffered an injury which forced him to miss his junior season. Through hard work and determination, he came back stronger his senior year and had his best season. My son was inspired by Coach's story and tilted his decision to move forward with the surgery in December. He works hard in physical therapy 3 times a week and is determined to get back on the baseball field. Shortly before Coach's termination in February, my son attended a club ball game. Although the team featured Shadow Ridge baseball players, it had no official affiliation with the school. Coach Thomas was elated to see our son attend and hang out with former teammates. So much, in fact, that when he saw Paul smiling and enjoying himself, he wanted to capture that moment by taking a photo of him. His intention was to share this wonderful moment with us. The coach accidentally recorded a short video instead, which was even better. After seeing this video, it put a smile on my face to see Paul enjoying himself on the baseball field again. It is my understanding that this harmless video led to Coach's termination. Why, you ask? That's a great question. A video with good intention, and on top of that, at an event where the school holds no jurisdiction. Something doesn't add up. This man's reputation is being destroyed and leaving many players and parents puzzled as to why. Unfortunately, our plea to get answers from our school has been proven to be futile. This is why I ask that a formal investigation be carried out to determine the validity of his firing. This man has been a well-respected and loved member of our school for years now. He deserves a fair, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Westphal. Spiker? You're next. You're next. I list everybody based off of how they come in. You are next, along with Mr. Summers, and then.
Okay, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. I'll say out loud that I think it's frustrating again that we're talking about our children and you guys don't allow public comment. Today, I was called and asked if I would help with something. And I have been literally beside myself all day. I think hopefully some of you know or understand what happened right before spring break out at Canyon Springs High School. But it was brought to my attention that, as you know, we're all in these heated discussions about restorative justice and policing in our schools, and that just before spring break, a nonverbal autistic African-American student was left unattended on campus, his one-to-one aide nowhere to be found. Not knowing what to do or what not, he proceeded to use the restroom standing in the place that he was left. And when a teacher came upon him, we're still waiting for more details, but apparently they took this student into the office, called the police, had him handcuffed, nonverbal. They never called the parents. CCSD PD never called the parents. The admin did not call the parents. So where is our training? Like seriously, like, and then we're being told that this student was not even like the one-to-one aide, like came running and told them about this student and they refused to back down. Fortunately, he did not go to jail, but what's going to come of this? What is going to come of this? So I just spoke a few minutes ago. You bet your butt we're lining up to sue on that one. And I can't wait to look jurors in the face in their jury box and have them have to wrap their mind around being that child.
Thank you, Ms. Finder. Mr. Summers, followed by Mr. Gonzalez.
All right, good evening. Greetings, trustees and Superintendent Jara. Brandon Summers for the record. I'm a CCSD alum, substitute teacher of 5 years, and also a musician. I'm not happy with the way things are going, and it's fair to say that many educators feel the same way. I know teachers who have already left, teachers who have quit, teachers who aren't coming back next year. For example, the guitar teacher who I've been subbing for regularly is not coming back next year. The orchestra teacher that I covered for at the end of last year quit with 1 month left. And the orchestra program at Kenny Gwynn is no more. Teachers are exhausted and looking for alternative careers. The last 2 to 3 years have been bad, but I believe it's going to be worse next year. And I hope you have a plan for the fall, but I fear you do. I fear you do not. The business cards aren't going to cut it. The churn and burn strategy of new teachers is not going to fill the void that has been left by experienced teachers who have left the district or the profession as a whole. The short-sightedness of remedies is going to hurt everyone, especially students. And I foresee student-teacher ratios in the 40s. I don't have the answers, but the district should start with increased pay for educators, especially experienced educators. Substitute teachers also need an increase in pay and a pathway to health insurance, especially for vacancy and long-term subs. And according to CCSD's new data portal, there are roughly 1,100 long-term subs who are active. And despite the numerous long-term subs who are keeping this whole thing from falling apart, there still remain over 1,000 licensed teacher vacancies. And lastly, CCSD continues to have a transparency problem. As concerned community members speak right now during public comment, our faces are being hidden from public view. And the Durango High School student who was slammed to the ground over a month ago, we still have yet to see the body cam footage. It's unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jar. For the record, my name is Ed Gonzalez. I'm a committee member of the Hickey Elementary School organizational team. And as you can tell, I am wearing this shirt, though I can't be seen on camera. Before I get started, Madam President, I just wanted to say that I attempted to do this at the last meeting, but my tardiness prevented me from making it on time and speaking. So I will try it again this time. I want to thank the superintendent, because at our SOT meeting at Hickey Elementary earlier this month, we found out that the Bailey Health Clinic is open to our students. And so I am thankful for the work that he has done, his staff has done, his board has done, County Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick has done, because I don't want to get yelled at her again, or have her yell at me again, and many other people who've worked on this, Dr. Cortez as well. And as you know, it's been 4 years since this has happened. We weren't the only school that was on the original MOA. Martinez Elementary was, and that hasn't happened yet. So, Mr. Superintendent, I come here to thank you. I know this will help at least 4,500 kids. I do not know if it's open to the rest of the community. If you can say that later, that's fine. But for the kids over at Sunrise Mountain High School, at Hickey, and at Bailey, that's 4,500 students who will have access to healthcare in a healthcare desert. They will have access to mental behavioral supports. They will have access to immunizations. The high school will have access to physicals. So it's, like I said, this board knows what this means. You guys passed the MOA in November. And so I stand here today, Mr. Superintendent, that people have asked me, well, your school that you're involved in has got it. Are you done? And the answer is no. More schools. So if you need a partner on this to help open up other ones, I'm there with you. So, Madam President, I know I have another extra minute or so, but I'm going to let it be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Okay, colleagues, we have no more public comment at this time. But we do have item 6.01, which is the upcoming meeting of the Board of Trustees, Wednesday, April 5th. And that is a work session at 4 p.m. here in the boardroom. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Guzman.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Williams.
I second.
Thank you, Trustee Williams. Colleagues, we have a motion by Trustee Guzman, a second by Trustee Williams. Please pass your vote. Thank you, colleagues. That motion passes 7-0. Meeting, the time is 6:48 p.m.
That